Guys, this is another edition. You already know what the deal is. I'm Kenny, as always, your host, bringing you more and more talent to get to know them outside of the ring. Today, I am joined by WWE, ex-WWE star Konnor from The Ascension. What's going on?
How are you doing, Kenny?
I'm great, man. I'm so glad to have you here. You know, we were talking offline, so I was like super excited to sit down and talk to you a little bit more. You know, Father's Day is rolling around, so happy Father's Day. You know, get you
Likewise.
early. Thank you.
Likewise.
I've been asking different people throughout the week, what does it mean to be a dad? So I'm gonna shoot that question to you and get your opinion on it. So what does it mean to be a dad?
Well, for me, this is kind of crazy because for me, first off, I never expected to be a dad. I don't know, having our son wasn't something that we planned, and honestly, like, this is weird, but, years back, my son's 3.5 now. So, 4.5, 5 years ago, I'm going to be honest with you. I really didn't care for kids. I didn't dislike them, but I never really had much of a connection really with them, I guess.
Right.
Until I had my child. And to me, I mean, he's been my guardian angel. He taught me to love a lot more and to be a lot more appreciative. So I think, as you know, as a father, those kids, your kids can make you view life a little bit different. It makes you think, makes you have better decisions, in life. And so for me, he's just, being a father has been, honestly, it's been the greatest gift I've ever had, to be honest with you. I never had my real father. My real father left me. So I always wanted to make sure that, I want to make sure that that's something my son will never have to go through.
Now, just looking at him, right? Because I talk to so many dads about this. And like, when they act a certain way, does it make you think to yourself, like, did I act like this when I was a kid? Or is it like, nah, I couldn't act like that? That had to come from your side of the family. Like when you look at your wife.
I was a little hellraiser when I was a kid. My mom's, told me stories. And so, when I see things happen, I just smile. I don't, I kind of roll with the punches. I go with the flow of things. I don't get upset. I've to this day never have spanked my kid yet. I don't know. I just laugh a lot when I look at him, and I'm like, and I do think that if it's something that, goes a certain way and it might get under my skin, I'm like, you probably deserve this. So it's like I'm telling myself.
I tell my wife all the time, it's like, when our kids, I have 2 small boys, when they do something and I look back at it, like, I'll call my mom, and I'll be like, Mom, did I act like this when I was a kid? And sometimes she'll say yeah, sometimes she'll say no. So when she says no, I'm quick. I'll tell my wife, like, that's all you. That's your side of the family, like, not me. And she'll just look at me and laugh. She's like, okay, whatever. But, I mean, like you said, being a dad is like a blessing. Like when I had my first kid, I didn't, he wasn't planned either. He was a honeymoon baby, so it was like, okay, like, I'm jumping right into the dad role, and, it's been amazing. So, as is there any like advice you would give like newer dads out there?
Yeah. It's funny. I ran into a couple not too long ago, and this was something that I think every first time father goes through, and I'm sure you can definitely agree with this. It's scary at first. It's really scary, and just know, to any first time fathers or any fathers that are out there, like, to not be afraid, because you're going to naturally and instinctively do the right thing for the most part. I don't know if it's just in our DNA. I don't know, but it's just, for some reason, it's there. And even as, my wife and I have sat down and talked about this, be encouraging no matter what. Like, just encourage your son to be the best they can be, and just try to be the best role model you can be for your children.
I mean, that's one of the things that, I try to instill in my kids, is just be like, hey, if you love something, go for it. Try it out to your best ability. And then from there, we'll move on.
I agree. 100% agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
So I was doing some more research about you because I've
Okay.
known you for your in-ring talent. So I said, man, I need to know some more stuff about him, like outside of the ring. And there was something that was so interesting to me
Oh boy.
that you do. So you
Oh dear.
officiate weddings.
Nah.
Which I was like, I said the only other person that I knew that would do something like that was Mick Foley.
Yes.
Right, because I've seen a couple of times that he's done it and he's talked about it a couple of times, but I didn't know you do that. So what got you into like officiating weddings?
Truthfully, I just kind of stumbled on it. It was one WrestleMania. I didn't really want to go out and party and get caught up in any trouble. So what I ended up doing was I just sat in my hotel room, and I just wanted to accomplish a few things. I ended up getting my boating license.
No, nice.
I live in Florida, so it just makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And for whatever reason, I wanted to become a notary. So I got my notary license, and my wife became, she became officiant. And so I was like, why can't I do it? So I did it and had it for, I don't know, I want to say about a year. Never used it until Sasha Banks. And I had the privilege of getting to marry her and her husband. So, and that was actually where I met Mick Foley, which was pretty cool. I mean, I'd always met him backstage, but he was there for that wedding. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, holy cow, this is so intense. Because, it is. Because, Mick Foley, he's got a thing for children. He loves, being Santa Claus. That's one of his things. Yeah. And at this time, when this was going to happen, he had not actually done a wedding yet. He was getting ready to. And he asked me what it was like. And I said, honestly, it's pretty scary. So he was there for the first one I ever did. And it was so cool. And, he was so encouraging afterwards. He's like, oh, you did so good. You don't really know when you do it. It gets scary. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to forget your lines. It's just so many little detailed things. You're like, man, I really don't want to screw this up. Sasha, is giving me the privilege of being able to do this and inviting my family, and but it all came out great. And it was one of those things that I remember just leaving that day, and I remember crying because. It's just something about fulfillment. It just felt so good to bond two people, and marry them. It was really cool, and to this day, I'm privileged that I got to do it. It's one of the things I get to brag about a little bit. The first people I've ever married was Sasha.
Yeah, because when I saw it, I was like, there was like, oh, like I typed in your name and I'm like going through all this stuff, and then it's like, it's giving me like your wrestling history and everything, and it's like your wife's name and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, cool. I mean, these are things that a lot of people know. And then all of a sudden, like there was like a small little part that said click this. It was like officiate, and I was like, wait a minute, he officiated weddings. And then I saw the Sasha Banks thing, and I was just like, wow. Yeah. I was like, okay, that's kind of that's very cool, because you don't see too many people do that, and that's, like I said, the only person I really knew was Mick Foley has done it. Have you officiated any other weddings besides Sasha, or?
Yeah, I ended up doing Jason Jordan's, which was really cool. But there was a lot of people that were reaching out that wanted me to do them, and I just I didn't want to just go to people's weddings that I didn't know and stuff like that. I wanted to keep it more private and more personal, so but eventually my notary license wore out, and because I could do it all, I was able to stamp it and sign documents and make everything completely legal. So I just never caught up with that and keeping everything relevant, and so I don't do them no more.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I can't. It's all it is putting your head in the computer and studying for about 4 or 5 hours. That's all it is. But I have not had the time as a father. You understand?
Yes. Listen, this year alone, like we spoke offline, I said this year alone has been so tough, even with everything opening back up again.
Yeah.
I have two small boys. I work full time, and then I have to do remote learning full time, which was like a hassle. I'm so glad that school is over and we're in the summertime. Did your son had to go? Did he go in school, or was he remote as well?
No, he's 3.5. So yeah.
You're lucky on that one.
Yeah, so far so good. But yeah, the whole pandemic thing was it was really good to me, unfortunately, and I don't think too many people got want to hear about that. But I was really blessed in that aspect of it, being in Florida and just being careful. But a lot of things that the world experienced, as you know, Florida didn't experience that.
Yeah. Yeah, which is true. Which was like, it was very lucky because I have family that lives out in Florida, and they were very careful when it came to a lot of things. So there were like small closures for you guys, but not like major, like say here in New York where like everything was shut down.
Yeah, you guys got it pretty rough. I remember you guys and California, if I'm not mistaken, it was pretty bad because I've got a couple friends up there that I mean, right when you guys were in the heart of it, like, I mean, when it was just starting, it was really bad in your area. I remember, and I was always texting him and making sure everything was all good. And you guys went through a pretty rough time up there.
Yeah, I'm so glad that like we're getting past that hump. We're still going through it a little bit, but for the most part, we starting to see a lot of things, start to open up, and then now we have to deal with the high prices because, like, if you notice, like everything has gone up.
Inflation, baby.
Oh yeah, and like I tell people, I said everybody's trying to recoup their money, so it's more of a business thing rather than like, okay, somebody's being greedy. If everything was normal and those prices got high, then I'm just like, okay, you guys just want extra money, like.
Yeah, that during this whole pandemic, that was the one thing I really got into. Was I got into stocks and politics. So I totally understand this whole inflation thing. It's I don't know if it's transitory or what, but it's gonna be interesting.
Right. So, well, your time in WWE, I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but you actually were in WWE twice. So you left one time, and then you came back again. Then they partnered you up as a tag team, and you did phenomenal work that a lot of people started to recognize. One thing I didn't know about you was that you was actually in WWE twice.
Right. Yeah. I originally got hired by World Wrestling Entertainment back in 2005. And I was shipped to Deep South Wrestling, which was located in McDonough, Georgia. I was there until 2000. Well, they shut down around 2007. They moved the whole system to Tampa, Florida, where it then turned into FCW. And then came back in 2010. I left in 07, came back 3 years later in 2010, where it was still FCW. Spent a couple years there. Then they shut that down, and then they moved it to Orlando, where then it turned into the Performance Center. So I got to ride three different developmentals. So
you've seen it all.
I have watched coaches come in and leave to only come back in and leave again. So I was like, I think I might have overstayed my welcome.
So one of the things that I read was that you actually met your wife while you was in developmental there. You guys were both training in the same company. So how was that meeting her over there? Like, was it like awkward? Was it something like, I don't really like her right now? Or was it like love at first sight type of thing?
It was, and that that's one thing she always tells her friends and stuff too. I ended up doing orthoscopic surgery on my patella, and I remember coming in on crutches, and she had just got there, and she was in the office with Jody Hamilton, the assassin, and I remember coming in there, and he's like, "Hey kid, how you doing?" like that, and as I came in, I looked at her, and I just couldn't stop looking at her, and it was vice versa, and it was crazy. Just because of how the whole thing just kind of came into fruition. Bill DeMott ended up he put us together as I ended up being like her bodyguard, and he looked at me and he goes, "Merry Christmas." And I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, you can thank me later. And that's where he left it at.
Right.
And even to this day, we still talk to him. And he's the one who originally put us together. And so, you know, back then you had to be very quiet with your relationships. The times have changed so much now. But then you had to kind of keep everything kind of kayfabe or, you know, very quiet.
Right.
And yeah, to this day, you know, 15 years later, here we are. You know,
I can't wait until your son gets older and he's gonna be like, so mom, how did you meet dad? And or vice versa, if he asks you, and then you can just tell him like, oh, you know, we wrestled together. Like, like I was protecting your mom.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was I don't think there's too many kids. I mean, you know, in this world right now, they can say both their parents were, you know, wrestlers, professional wrestlers, you know. So, you know, it never gets boring. I can tell you that. You know, life has never gotten boring with us. So,
right. Oh man. So here on the show, we do talk a little bit about like wrestling figures. So do you still have like your wrestling figure that you've had with WWE?
Oh yeah. I have them boxed and still set. I've got all the video games too. They're all still in the wrappers. You know, it's all for my son. You know,
okay.
Yeah, I keep it all for my son. I'll never pull that stuff out. It's there for my boy.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna ask, like, well, do you collect them for yourself, or are you a hobby collector, like in heart?
No, I collect my stuff when it's there, and then you know, I just kind of keep it all packaged up. I put it in a box for my son. You know, funny story. I had collar and elbow over my house one weekend, and we all were hanging out. We were talking, and you know, he was telling me, because I was like, you know, he doesn't call me dad. He calls me mama, not daddy. I'm like, man, I don't know if he's trying to pull my punk card or what. You know what I mean? And so he goes, you know, you should let him play with your action figures. And I go, what? And he goes, no, seriously. He goes, so I had a few that were already wrapped. And so I just showed him them. And he goes, yeah, dad. And it was an instant. Okay.
See?
My God, I was like, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh my God. I remember like why my youngest son, when he started getting into wrestling and WWE was actually here in New York. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take him to Access for him to like, you know, experience like meeting like some of the wrestlers and stuff like that. And he was playing with Samoa Joe like the whole entire time. And then he heard on the loudspeaker that they were gonna have Samoa Joe there. He's like, "Oh, I want to meet him!" Like pulling to him, like to that area. And when he finally met him, it was just like he didn't know what to do. Like it was just like, oh my God, like that's really. He's looking at the doll and he's looking at him. He's looking at the figure and he's looking at him. So did your son have that same moment as well, or did he kind of just like, okay, that's just that?
My question is, how did Joe react to all of that?
Oh man, Joe loved it because like he just looked at him, gave him a high five, he put him on the table. So I have like a picture of like both of them just like talking the whole time, and then he gave him a fist pump, and he was like, "Okay, come on, just like take the picture," and like that was like a really good moment. And like even with like Nakamura, like he was a big fan of Nakamura when he was little. And he was just like, when he met Nakamura picked him up, put him on his shoulder, was like, you know, like, how's everything going? And then like that was like the best thing for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's got great taste. That's for sure. You know, not only just as wrestlers, but just as human beings, period. You know, those are two really incredible guys. So I'm glad you got to experience it. You know, as you know, you can't put a price on that. That's the coolest thing to watch your kid. It is so cool, man. It is so cool to see.
Yeah, because you know, for me growing up, like, you know, I grew up like with you know, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. So like, you know, I didn't get to see them when I was younger, but I got to see them a little bit older now. So like, you know, I get to see the experience that they like the same experience that I had and the feelings that I had meeting them. I see my kids doing it now. So it's like, you know, it's so great.
Right. It's like you're reliving your youth again.
Exactly. So has wrestling always been a part of your life, like growing up?
It has, actually. I used to sit there. I used to watch it with my grandfather. I watched it with my stepfather. And it's always been something that's always bonded my family. Because I'm sure, talking like hearing you talk is, there was only 4 major pay-per-views back then, and so you were always looking forward to it because it was a big ordeal. Now we've got them, of course, every month, but back then it was so much more special because you remember the you rent the pay-per-view, right? And then you will watch the countdown timer.
Yes.
You remember that countdown timer, and you guys, family would just get there, and they're like 5, 4, and you could hear the crowd, and then all of a sudden the TV would go into the auditorium, and the place was going crazy. And
me and my friends used to do that all the time. Like my mom, she would tell us like, okay, I'll rent the pay-per-view for you guys, but like she would say like, to like we have to buy snacks. So you would save like your allowance money and go out there and everybody comes to your house and they'll be like, okay, and now we're gonna sit down and like watch the pay-per-view. Now it's just like you said, we have a pay-per-view almost like every week. So, but back then it used to be like 3 months will go by of storylines, and then we finally get like a Royal Rumble or like WrestleMania.
It was so magical for me and my taste. It was so magical for that. But for you'd wait almost every quarter for those 4 pay-per-views to happen. It was so special. And I think just now with everything, the way people are and the way everything just moves, it's fast. And, with technology and stuff, it's like, it's just everything has to be at a faster pace now. It's just the way our brains are working. So, but my family, I mean, it was like Thanksgiving every time, like cousins, aunts, and uncles, like we all would get together. We'd all get into fist fights. Who would win. But the funny thing is going through all this, I loved wrestling, but I never thought that I'd ever become a professional wrestler. I never saw myself in that light. People have asked me, even my students ask me, they go, did you always want to become a professional wrestler? And the answer is no, I didn't. I had no concept of wanting to become a professional wrestler. I wanted to play professional football. That was where I would originally go. And it just happened that one day a buddy of mine was doing landscaping work, and he invited me. I needed a couple bucks. We started working, and then he goes, "You never believe whose house this is." And I really didn't care. You know what I mean? But then all of a sudden this gentleman walks out through the patio slider. I remember I was right by the pool, and I looked up and my mouth dropped because I'm looking at a superhero, and it was Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, wow.
And here's the funny thing is, right? The funny thing is that I didn't really care about his wrestling work.
Right.
I disrespect him anyway because I love Sarge. And even to this day, we joke about this. But I was such a big G.I. Joe fan.
I had a feeling you was gonna say that because that was the same thing. Why, like when I met Sergeant Slaughter, I told him the same thing. I said, you know what? I loved you as a wrestler.
Yep.
But I loved you more as one of the G.I. Joe characters. Like.
Absolutely. He was, I think during those, the 80s, early 90s, like, he was an icon. He was what Arnold Schwarzenegger was to me during that time, and I always wanted his action figure. I thought the world of him. And now looking back at it, right, Kenny, is that when I see it, and now that I have that relationship with him to where if I can call him, I can call him. He is such a good human being. That it makes, they always say never meet your heroes, right? I am so glad I met Sarge because he is everything I could ever want in a hero.
No, man, that's amazing. Yeah, I've only met like one person that I really looked up to, and it was a really great experience, and that was Bret Hart.
Oh, yeah, Bret's very passionate about his fans.
Yes.
Anybody that's ever met him knows that. He's passionate about wrestling, but he's even more passionate about his fans.
Yeah, I remember I stood in line. The person that was in front of me took forever. So I was kind of just standing there. And then, he started speaking to me, and he was just like, "Oh, so what do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a cop." And he was like, "What?" And then, I don't know. For that, I think we took like 10 minutes, and everybody just looking at us because he wanted to know like so much detail of my job. And through the whole time, I'm just like, "Well, I want to know more about you."
Yeah. Well, it was like when we first started talking, like I almost didn't give a damn about the interview at this point. I just wanted to know more about you. You have such an interesting life as well. Like it's so, but yeah, it's, You know, Brett's a great guy too, and it makes it so much better when you've always looked up to these people, then you meet them and you're like, wow, they're even cooler than what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So you didn't want to get into wrestling in the beginning. You wanted to do football, but then you meet Sarge. He brings you in. You start training, and now, what is life like after like WWE? You said you have students. I remember before when we talked offline, you said you do seminars. So what are you doing in these seminars?
Yeah. So what ended up happening, what came about was during this whole time off, I really enjoyed being around wrestling, right? I love it. I'll always be so grateful for this profession. And it's been so good to me. And I started going to this one school specifically. It was called Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling. And I just saw all the hunger that these kids had and how much they wanted to learn and just all this passion and love that they have for the business, that it got me inspired and it got me excited. And I was sitting back and I was watching and I was like, I think I want to coach one day.
Okay.
I think it'd be awesome to coach one day. And then, these coaches ended up pulling me in, and we ended up rebranding the school, and we've got over 60 plus students.
That's amazing.
And the two trainers, one of them's a gentleman's name is David Mercury, but the other ones, I'm sure the Northeast loves and knows, is Jay Lethal.
Okay.
So Jay Lethal, me, and David Mercury, we have our school down here. And it's been amazing. Like, I've been so grateful to be a part of this family and be able to contribute my way and the knowledge and experience that I've had that I can share with these kids. And, I'm just very grateful for it. And especially because it's like having 60 kids, and as a father, as we know, father is it's amazing being a father. And now you get 60 plus kids.
So you basically, like, you could say, like, being a dad to a 3-year-old is actually helping you be a dad to, like, and a mentor to, the 60 plus people that are coming in, to the school. Because, like, for me, like I said before, like, that actually helps me because I teach on the side besides, like, my job, like, like a number of things. So when some people come to me, they're like, you're so patient when it comes to, like, answering these questions over and over again, even though, you can get the same question asked, 20 times. But you got to think about it. Like, I tell them, I said, well, I'm a dad to, like, 2 small kids. Imagine 2 small kids asking you the same thing over and over and over again. Like, I think you could develop some type of patience,
Oh yeah. And I also think you start choosing your battles. Like,
yes.
That's been one of the biggest things I've noticed in my lifetime since being a father is I choose my battles now.
Mm-hmm.
And a majority of them, I don't even want to battle. I just
say, yeah. Like,
yeah.
my son's birthday is coming up and he's asked me for, I'm going to say, over 100 things. Okay. So far, my response is, yeah. Okay. Oh, can I get this for my birthday? Yeah. Okay. And I'm just going to weed it down to, like, the final 2 things that he asks for. And I'm like, okay, this is what you want. No problem. Like, this is what you're going to get.
That's advice I'm going to keep.
Exactly. Just tell them, yeah. If their birthday is months from now, just tell them yes. It's like, yeah. Oh, can I get a pony for my birthday? Yeah. Don't worry about it. Okay, yeah. Oh, Dad's going to give me a pony. Yes. And, the day comes and you're like, well, you asked for a pony. And then you just kind of give them a stuffed animal. You call it a day.
That's awesome.
So that's great to hear that you're teaching other people, so in this business, and you're still in it. A lot of people, they're kind of just like, they either take time off or they go and do something else, or they just hit the independence. Now that things are opening back up, I know we've seen a lot more of independent shows popping up everywhere.
Yeah. They're I guess, well, I know down here, we've had a few companies that started early and they just kept on running, but from my understanding, we just did a show up there in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And as a company called PPW, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's their first show back. So from my understanding, shows are just starting to open up now, is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean that's great. You know, I know the avid wrestling fan is probably dying right now just to get to a show.
Oh yeah,
check it out, and you know, I'm sure I'm sure the wrestlers themselves as well are probably like chomping at the bits too and excited. You know, so yeah, it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good all around for all the boys, man.
yeah.
To not only get out there more and get the experience, but you know, to actually have people around.
Oh yeah, because I had Moose on here from Impact Wrestling, and I told him, I said, man, I give you credit to just performing with like no crowds at all, and you could do something and you don't know whether or not it's actually like relatable with the crowd that's actually watching, because you can't hear anything. You literally have to go through the whole entire match and then post it online, or on television, and then hope for the best. And
Yeah.
you know how wrestling fans are. We could be so critical on so much shit that we could love it 1 minute, hate it the next, or go on for with the power of the internet now, you could just go on there in a matter of seconds and be like, I hate this. This is horrible. I don't never want to see it again. But you would never tell it to somebody's face,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I think the best thing for the workers to do is not even pay attention to the online stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even look at it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I've seen so many people. I've seen talent where they'll get involved and they'll say something, which is, understandable, because this is like your art. This is what you guys love, and for somebody to criticize it when you think that it's like, okay, this is one of my best work, and then you're gonna shit all over it. I don't blame them in a way when they say things, to certain fans,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and then some, just some wrestlers have a lot thicker skin where they just don't give a damn.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allowed to voice your opinion,
right?
So I don't know. It's it's the different sides of the spectrum, I guess. So I try not to put all the power into that. Like, I don't really care if somebody likes something or if they don't like it or if they do like it. It's just, I'm going to, at the end of the day, do what I feel is right for me and my family.
Exactly. And that's the best thing to do, is just like do what makes you happy, and everybody else will just fall into line eventually. Like I said before, I was like, wrestling fans are we're iffy at times. Like I said, I say for myself, sometimes I like something and then months later I'll be like, you know what, it grew on me. So it's what can you do? Well,
yeah.
I want to close it out with this. So what are some advice that you give your students as they're entering this crazy world that we love so much called wrestling?
I think, when it comes to the business, I think you touched on it, as a father, and I think the key word is patience. Be very patient. I think nowadays a lot of kids are in such a rush to, whether it's work or the thinking process, wrestling, whatever it is, just be patient. I think just ride the wave, be in the moments, and enjoy everything. Because, when I look back at my 20 plus years in this business, I try to tell the students, be in the moment of everything, because the best times, especially with the beginners, like I tell them, your first year, 2 years in are going to be probably the years you're going to never forget, because even it doesn't matter if you make it, to a main roster or you go overseas, you're going to have memories, but they're never going to compare to the first time you took your first bump, your first match ever, or going to the first show where your family was there, rooting you on, you know what I mean? So, patience and be in the moment, be in the moment, because you can't buy time. Once it's gone, it's gone.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. Because when thinking back, as you were saying this, if I was one of your students, I'll be sitting there thinking about like everything that you told me and all the times that all that stuff happened. Like your family seeing you for the first time, you telling people that this is something that you want to do, and actually proving that you're making it happen, whether it takes you a year, 2 years, 5 years. When you finally make it, you can just say like, I did it on like my own accord.
Right.
You know, but man, it's been great talking to you. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you for hours and pick your brain on a whole bunch of other stuff. You know, if people wanted to reach out to you to get some training, where can they find you?
Yeah, so just go to big_con1. Look for the verifications on Twitter and Instagram. I keep it very simple, so they're pretty much the same. And you know, just go ahead and drop me a DM, and we'll just go from there. It's that simple. I keep everything easy.
Well, guys, you already hear it here. He keeps everything easy. So, you know, if you want to get into the wrestling business, by all means, hit this man up. He has been a great chat, and I guarantee he could be even more open offline. Guys, let's give it up one more time for Konnor from the Ascension.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated. The best of luck to you and all those fathers out there. Have a happy Father's Day.
Yes, definitely, to all the fathers.